Tonight's DJNTV show is sponsored in part by Electro Voice, DJ Event Planner, ADJ, NLFX Professional, Promo Only, Newmark, and DJNTV Insiders.
Hi, this is John Young with the Disc Jockey News and Disc Jockey News TV. Thank you for joining us tonight out on Facebook and out there on YouTube. For tonight's show, we've got...
How about now?
Try it again.
Are you good?
Yeah, you sound fine.
Okay. All right. Can you guys see my media player?
Play again, go to library, play previous.
Perfect. Hopefully this is the right video.
If not, it could be embarrassing.
Yeah. Okay. So basically what we did is we're testing our sound. I actually got the idea from when I did the lighting for Electro Voice. And right now what you see, these are the Intimidator Hybrid 140s. Those are the movers on top. One thing I want to point out, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but the wash effects, you can see we actually had custom wraps made for those, so they blend in nicely. Obviously, there isn't a white shell for the Hybrid 140s just because they're more of a larger production style light. But what you'll notice over here is our video screens. We have a video screen here, and we have a video screen on the other side. And basically what we're doing is we're talking about our MCs, the interaction, and basically putting a light show to go along with that. There's music playing along in the background. So you'll see when the lighting is a little bit more energetic, then there's probably more energy in the song, in the soundtrack, as well as the voiceover. And a couple things that you'll notice, when the video does certain color schemes, our lighting will actually do the same color scheme. We couldn't use any haze or anything like that in our show, but you can still see some of the beam. You can't really see it very well in the video, but you can actually see it pretty well when you're walking by the booth. The other cool thing too is you'll see a part in here where you're going to see our sparklers that we have. You'll see those going off when we talk about energy in songs, different styles. You know, again, when we're talking about more of the dance type stuff, you're going to see more energetic colors. Our branding color is the teal that you see from the wash effects right now, and then also that you see on our Plinko board. Now, one of the things that we've really kind of pushed is, sorry, my video is over here, so that's why I'm not looking at the camera, but you guys aren't really looking at me anyways. One of the things that we really pushed was making guests feel, making them feel the excitement, making them feel the energy, making them feel the elegance. And right now we're playing Ed Sheeran's Perfect. Obviously, it's going to be the #1 first dance song of the year, would be my guess. And now you see in the video, you can see that there's using the warm colors, and that's why we matched the uplighting to go with those same colors. Now in the video, there's actually a snow dance going on, one of the snow dances that we did earlier, and we actually have it snowing in our booth right now. He got up there at a bad time because it's completely snowing on top of him, but we actually have the Anatar, I believe it's called, the Snow 500, which is a phenomenal snow machine. It's worth every penny. If you're looking for a over-the-top snow machine, that is definitely a snow machine I would look at. But again, what we did, I'm going to pause the video quick. Again, you'll notice on the screen, you'll notice the colors that are in the background of the video, and that's why we matched the background of our booth to go along with that. And we utilized the Hybrid 140s in the wash mode. So basically a nice wide, nice soft beam or a nice spread of light. And the reason we did that is because it created more of the snow to actually pop and to make it illuminate, so people can get the full effect of the snow as opposed to just like a pin beam or anything like that. So we used a nice wide beam when we did the snow. And anytime you use an atmospheric effect like a snow, I would always recommend shooting a wash up into that snow, so that way it illuminates that snow. Otherwise, again, it just kind of goes unnoticed. So you can see, yeah, you can kind of see a little bit in the video. You can see the snow. And then basically as that video closes out, the lighting closes out, and then we talk about creating energy. So here you can see our sparklers. And again, we put those far enough back so that way people didn't go by them and it didn't cause any issues. Granted, you could touch it, but we don't want to encourage that. Talking about more energy in the song. So you can see the lighting is a little bit more energetic. And there's a certain part here where we start talking about what we feel are going to be the popular colors in weddings. We talk about, and once we get there, I'll show you exactly what it is. We talk about, right now we're talking about textures. We're talking about different pattern styles. And again, the reason we went this way in our booth, I'm going to pause that real quick. The reason we went this direction with our booth is because we're programming these great light shows for, we did conventions and conferences, and then we were out in Anaheim. Actually, I left for Anaheim the day of this event, right after the show was done. And we programmed these really cool light shows for Electro Voice. And it's like, gosh, we're not using our talents and showing it off here in our own market. And so we wanted to show our strengths. And that was one thing that we talked about last week, Dave and myself, was, focus on your strengths and what makes you different than everybody else. And I know it's pretty rare that, and there's some great people, there's some great lighting people in my market, but this was my advantage. And so that's why we really focused on this, to kind of make that kind of our powerhouse for our show. So here's where we start talking about the different color schemes and everything. And what we did is we actually found some of these themes and color schemes that we've used in the past, and we showed video of that. And so as we're showing the video and pictures, we're actually talking about it. There's some of the hot colors. Blush pink is coming back. I don't know how many people know that or knew that, but blush pink is going to be a big thing again. It took about 1.5 years, 2 years off. And now again, it's going to be popular in wedding dresses, or not wedding dresses, but bridesmaids dresses, floral, and things like that. So we talk about that right here. So you'll see the blush pink that we have in the background. And then we also talk about that hint of green, because you'll see a lot of greenery this year, I think. So we just have a very light green that's going on in the background. So here you can see the video, pictures, and again, the light show is just kind of doing that same, kind of creating that same atmosphere. And we actually use 6 of the hybrid 140s. You can see 2 of them, or you can see 2 on each side here. This next one, we talk about bold red along with some warm orange. I think you're going to see a lot more of that in the fall colors. The next one, we're talking about different shades of blue, I think it is. No, I'm sorry. It's hard to see in the video. This is different shades of purple. You're going to see a lot of lilacs this year. You're going to see UV is a popular color. I don't know exactly how that's going to work in the wedding world, but apparently UV is going to be a very popular color. That was brought up by a whole bunch of wedding experts that do, the new coming up trends and things like that, or upcoming trends. Then we talk about different shades of blue, and I think you're going to see a lot more light blues. I don't know if you're going to see so much deep blue as you will more of those ice blues and those cool blues. So that's where we talk about that. And the cool thing is that we had already used some of these colors in past events. So we had video, we had good still footage. And then here we talk about why not add that little touch of elegance to your first dance with a snowfall. So we're showing off the snowfall again while using a cool white, or a cool white and a cool blue. The gold is going to be popular. You're going to see a lot more gold black tie weddings. So ambers and golds are going to be popular this year. And let me see.
So basically everything but green and white are the only 2 colors you haven't talked about so far. I'm just saying. Yeah,
pretty much. And the thing is, it's not always about what color you're using. It's about what color you're using with what color. So it's about the color matching that you're doing. It's not always going to be about, green. It could be a mint green along with that blush pink. It's not going to be about that purple. It's going to be about that shade of purple that's being used with that shade of whatever other color it is. And again, I mean, you wouldn't want to mix orange and green together. You're not going to want to mix red and green together. It's just, I mean, then you're going to start looking like Christmas. But here's basically where we talk about, you know, kind of the fun and creative part of what we get to do. So we just have some light fade, things like that. You can see here we have the last bit of, the last hurrah when we talk about fun. And then here what we did is we actually used the new Justin Timberlake song that came out like a week before the show. We actually put a nice little light show together to go with that song. And then we also did Bruno Mars's Finesse. So as that's playing, you can kind of see the energy and excitement, everything that's being created with that. So the rest of our booth, you can see we have a nice custom-made leather facade that we have here. It's probably not leather, but down here we have little kiosks, and we actually have people, Jared, this is a thing that we use DJEP for. People sign up at our booth and they actually put in a request for information, which automatically puts them into our DJEP inbox. And then we just automatically add them right there. So it's not write down on this piece of paper, your name, your date, all that stuff. They just put all of their information in right here. And then we have our Evolve 50s. Again, that's something that we have in our market. I don't know how many other companies have that in our market, but again, it just shows the sleekness of our audio, and the overall feel of our booth is just nice and clean and sleek. So that's kind of the rundown on, oh, and obviously our branding, we have our logo over the top there, but yeah, that's basically it. So I am going to stop sharing. Now, does anybody have any questions? Anybody? You guys are gonna have to unmute your microphones at this point.
So what are you using to run? Because obviously your music or your video was in sync with your soundtrack, which was in sync with your light show. What's controlling or handling all that?
Great question. So we actually built everything in Timeline and ShowXpress. As you probably know, I love ShowXpress and I'm kind of addicted to Timeline now. Timeline it can be very touchy. You have to be able to be patient, and you have to kind of know your way around ShowXpress to make Timeline work to your advantage. So when you have Timeline and you have certain things reacting and interacting, you have to know how to layer certain things. So let me see if I can actually pull up.
So does Timeline actually have the output that goes to the projector or screen then, or where did you have to?
Yeah, there's a video option that basically allows the video to output to the screens. And then basically we just use HDMI splitters. I'm going to share my screen here and I will actually show you the show. I'm getting there. Share screen. Share screen. Okay. Can you see ShowXpress?
Yep.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. So basically what I did is I have to move our people. There we go. I have all of our freedoms. I have our 140s, hybrids. I have the wash effects. I have the snow machine, and then I have the sparklers. And basically in live, I have absolutely nothing in here because I'm not using live buttons.
Okay.
What I'm doing is I'm actually using live Timeline. So if I open up this show, you'll be able to see, here's my video. Here's my video track. And I actually put the audio right into the video. So I didn't try to make a video and then try to do a voiceover and try to line it up. All the audio is right in the video.
Sure.
And then basically what I like to do is I like to keep all of my movements all in one area or one line. So this is movements up here, typically for hybrids. Now when I'm using hybrids and I'm using like my 375s, then I will typically have I'll have a line for hybrids, and then I'll have a line for 375s if they're doing different movements. If they're doing the same movement, then I'll just lay them all in the first line. But I like to keep my movements up here. I'm going to zoom in so you can see, whoops. If I zoom out, it was about 12 minutes, 11 minutes is what the whole show came to. And if I zoom all the way in, what you'll notice is there's all of these little grid points. So this piece right here, basically that is a shutter. You can see that, I labeled that there. And then it turns off. That's what the X is. It'll make it stop with that shutter. And then I have it going again, doing the same thing, and then turning back off, shutter again, turning back off, and then basically scanning up, and then random movement. And typically I'll put an M so I know that it's actually a movement. So you'll see M here, you'll see M here. Now, what does this look like in my folders? If I go to generator, you're gonna notice that I have a folder for freedoms, I have a folder for hybrid, and I have a folder for wash effects. If you don't do that, if you don't create specific folders, then when you label something as on or fade out, you're not going to know if it's for a freedom, or you're not going to know if it's for a hybrid or a wash. So by putting it all in its own folder, you'll be able to see all the different things that I've created specifically for the hybrid fixture. So here is, again, M is all movements. Zoom snap is basically it's a zoom feature. And then R&D, I always write down as random. Medium, obviously. Pan left to right, medium. So that's basically how fast that's panning. And then if I go into, so that was when I went into add generator scene. If I go into add step scene, now I have freedoms, hybrid, snow machine, sparkular, and then wash effects. So if I go into freedoms, here's all the different things that I created for freedoms. So I have a fade on, I have a fade off. I have an on, which basically just turns the fixture on. And then I have the certain colors that I used in that entire show. Let me see. And then in the hybrids, you're gonna see a lot more, just because there's a lot more things that are happening with the hybrids, such as positions, such as gobos, such as colors, all those different things. So you're gonna see, you can see this right now, right?
Yep.
Okay. Just checking.
Yeah. No, I'd have told you if I was not seeing something.
Okay. So here's where I was talking about the lavender and lilac. Here's the different shades of blue. Here's the snowfall. The snowfall fades out. Here's the golds. So I label everything. So if I have to go to this show, I can go, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. Whoops. So then I know right here, it says gold on. So this is where it starts talking about the gold, or this is where the video starts playing regarding the gold. So if I ever needed to, and I'm like, oh, that didn't work in the show, I can just go here, I can right click, and then I can change, or I can edit that. For instance, if I wanted to edit the small, or the circle, then it's going to open up my generator, and then basically here's what I created for generator. Now, if I turn that on, then you'll obviously be able to see the movement. If I say, well, to me it was too slow, I can speed it up just by changing the seconds, or I can slow it down by adding more seconds to it. So I don't know how many of you guys use ShowXpress, but generator is probably one of the most powerful tools that you can utilize when it comes to ShowXpress.
Jeremy, when you're using and you're designing your, oh shoot, what was it called? Not live, but
Timeline.
Timeline. Thank you so much. When you're using Timeline, when you put your MP4 video in there, how does ShowXpress have a video play feature to allow you to watch what you're seeing and then sync it up?
Yeah. Yep. So let me.
Because I use ShowXpress quite frequently, and I never thought about using Timeline, and now I really want to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can open up the actual show and play the show.
Because a lot of your settings, a lot of your cue points that you have on there are very specific.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And if you had to open up that video in a separate file, that would be such a pain in the.
I don't have the video file on this computer anymore. I must have exported it and put it right out. It must have been on the flash drive, the original flash drive.
Okay.
So I don't have it on this computer. But yeah, basically when you go to play the video, let me share again. When you go to play the video, it will actually window, where is it? Screen control. So when you open that up, or when you start playing the video, screen control should automatically actually open for you.
Okay.
The one thing, just make sure that it is an MP4, because if you try an MOV, it typically isn't going to work, but an MP4 works well. And again, it really, you can watch the video, you can play, and then you can see exactly how you have everything synced up. And you can actually do waveforms and all that, so you can see where the audio hits and things. I'll actually, before we get off this show, I will show you the, you want to talk about specifics. And John got to see a little bit of the EV booth out in NAMM. I'll open up that timeline. And if you really want to be blown away, I mean, it still blows me away that I put that much time and detail into it. And it's pretty impressive when you can see the full timeline of it. But yeah,
Very
you
cool.
should be able to see it in screen control.
Okay. So does screen control pop up another window that has that video that plays on it? And then
Yep.
is that what you basically expand and go full screen like at your show, and then you output that via HDMI, and then you split it and then go to your multiple screens?
Exactly.
Okay.
So we had to do something a little bit different for NAMM because they were using a program called QLab. And basically QLab would fire lighting, it would fire video, and it would fire audio. Now they also used it to basically transition from speaker family to speaker. And so there was a lot of details that had to happen there. Now, what we had to do was we had to basically, and like the Alan and a couple of other people over at Chauvet, they came to the booth and they were looking at, you know, what I had put together and what I designed. And they're like, ShowXpress is not built to do that. Like, it's not supposed to do what he did, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. But what we were running into was I needed to fire the show, which was a 2-hour-long show. I needed to fire the show as soon as they hit a button. And there was too much of a delay to do a keystroke and fire a live button, which would be here. So if I did this, oh, you can't, I'm not sharing my screen right now, am I?
No, you are. You are.
Oh, okay.
You see page one.
So if I went into add timeline, I would add this, and now this is a button. So I can fire up my show. See, I clicked the button, and it took that long for it to fire up.
That's a good graphic right there. Any bridal show, file not found.
Yeah. So, I mean, just in this show, this 12-minute show, there was about a 2-second delay. Okay. Trying to do a 2-hour show, there was about a 25-second delay by the time I would click the button and for the show to actually start.
Okay.
So what we had to do is we had to cheat the system by using this little red button right here. Okay. I don't know if does everybody know what this is? Raise your hand or just like shake your head. Yes. No. Okay.
No idea.
But basically, if I'm editing, I can hit space bar and I can play from the green position.
Okay.
So I'm playing from the green position. Now, if I wanted to play from the red position, I just hit enter. I just hit enter and it goes back to the red position. So what I had to do is I had to basically fake out the system, and we used a MIDI note as if I was using a keystroke to start on this red position. So if you go up here and you go to timeline settings, this play from red marker, this is where we created a MIDI note for it to actually start in timeline. I never had the buttons option open. All it was timeline. This is all you would see on my screen when we were playing the show. Okay. So when they would actually send a MIDI note that started the audio and started the video from QLab, it automatically started from that red position, which we always had at the very beginning of the show. And I mean, there was no delay whatsoever. So again, we kind of cheated the system in making that as our keystroke and having just timeline open, because technically you're not supposed to run timeline in timeline. You're supposed to run timeline in your live mode or your button mode. But as you can see, it works. It actually worked better because I didn't run into any delay issues then. So that's how we created the same exact thing in for our wedding show booth as we did for the EV booth.
Okay. Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So you basically created like a cue point.
Yep, absolutely. So like for instance, if I zoom in right here, oh my gosh. All right. I should really find that file. If I zoom in right here, what you're going to see is you're going to see an off. You're going to see an on, off, on. And the reason you're probably wondering, why didn't I just use a strobe? Because this was actually very specific to the beat of the music.
Sure. And
I didn't want a strobe effect. I actually wanted an on-off effect. So it kind of created as if, and this, I don't know how many of you guys are going to be at Lighting Symposium, but this is one of the things that I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about how to use your lighting as a musical instrument. I did this similar to what I did at Mobile Beat a couple years ago. And I basically turned my lighting into a musical instrument. So if I hear a certain part of the song, I have certain lights and certain personalities of the light that actually create that energy of that instrument. For example, I used in Pitch Perfect, the original Pitch Perfect 1, when they did Just the Way You Are, and it was all a cappella, I basically put a vocal to a light, or I put a light to a vocal. So when it was this specific person singing, this light was that specific person. And so that's what I kind of do when I create my timelines is, if I hear a certain part of a song, it's like, oh yeah, that would make this look, or that sound would feel like this. That's the same thing I did in the EV booth, was when I talked about there was a frequency scan. So it started with, 10, or I don't remember what the kilohertz were, the hertz. But basically as the sound was deeper and fuller, then my lighting was more broad and it was bigger. And then as the sound got higher pitch in the frequency, then, I mean, to me, like a vocal cord, it would almost tighten up. It would get smaller. And that's how we utilize the light to kind of depict that and give that feel. So when I'm putting certain hit notes and certain things together, I'm giving it purpose and I'm giving it reason. So at Lighting Symposium, I'm going to talk about how you listen to music and how you make your lighting react to it. And we're going to talk about if you create it in timeline, or if you call, and I just realized that there's a word for this, it's called busking. And busking is where you actually are playing the lights while the song is going on. So think of it this way. It's like having sound switch, and it's not having sound switch. So sound switch, if you're familiar with sound switch at all, sound switch, basically you can put your music in, you can program all the lighting to do exactly what you want it to do in that part of the song. It's basically what we're doing with timeline. Busking, what you're doing is you're listening to the song and you're reacting physically with the song. So if there's a certain part, you look at any guitar riff. If there's like a really good guitar riff going on, you might use a strobe, or you might use a certain effect that's kind of creating that same energy of what the song is. So it's not so much about lighting all the time on the beat, but just kind of matching the tone of what the instrument or the vocal is doing with the lighting. And I think that's really what I do as a performer when I'm DJing. It's hard for me to tell one of my guys, hey, I want you to run the lights while I'm DJing. I'm typically a one-man show. The only time I'll have somebody with me is if I set up a ton of lighting and I need a bunch of help tearing down. But I'm kind of a control freak of, I have to be the MC. I will hit play when I want it, when I want the music to play. I will hit the color snap when I want the color to snap on my lighting. And again, it all comes down to listening to the song, making the lighting react to it. I don't know if that was a long explanation for absolutely nothing, but hopefully you got something out of that.
No. It was a good explanation, and there was definitely substance there. There's a lot of aspects that I did not know that ShowXpress did, and it makes me want to reevaluate how I'm using ShowXpress, because I'm just using it for live right now. That's really the only but on the same accord, the extent of my lighting as it stands right now is wash lights for the dance floor and uplighting. I don't use moving heads. I don't have sparklers. I don't do anything to that degree, but that doesn't mean that I can't use that with my uplighting. It's very rare that I ever do bridal shows. I am doing one this weekend simply because it's a local venue that asked for me to come out and MC the entire event. So that's really the only reason that I'm doing it. And if I have the opportunity, I might throw something like that together for my booth, so it just kind of stands alone and it does its own thing and it attracts people. But man, yeah, I would just say, could I use yours? But then they're going to be like, who's this DJ Jer guy? And I'm like, don't worry about that aspect of it. It's me, DJ, and then the J, forget the rest of it, and we're good. We're solid.
You could be DJ Jar. I mean,
Jar. Yeah.
You're right there. You're right there.
It's just an E and an A. It's the only difference really between it. And I'll just be like, it was a typo.
Yeah.
My graphics guy screwed up, and I'm just running with it. So it's fine.
So when I talk about busking, or I talk about kind of reacting with the lighting, if you're using ShowXpress, or if you're not using ShowXpress, you're using some other lighting software, that's perfectly cool. Even if you're using a hard controller, I still have, and I don't use this for my weddings, but we use MIDI boards all the time. So basically when I usually use for my weddings, I don't know if I have one up here. Hold on. No, I don't have one up there. For my weddings, I actually use the APC Mini. And basically it's a compact version of this. It's got a couple sliders. So when I use the sliders, I'll use this to speed up a shutter change. So I have shutter right, shutter left. Basically it's speeding it up and slowing it down here. I have a color snap that I'll use here. So I can speed up and slow down the color snap here. I have a wave. So instead of snapping, I can actually make the wave go faster. I can use that there. And then here I'll use a color snap so I can turn the color snap on. So again, this is just the speed control of it. This is actually making it active. And then same thing, I'll have color snap on my movers. I'll have color snap on or color wave on my, my freedoms. And then I'll do like a random. So like it'll kind of random shutter almost throughout the room, as opposed to it just kind of going around the room. It just kind of creates a really cool effect by changing up the shutter a little bit and not keeping it all consistent. So if you're not using MIDI boards, MIDI is really powerful. And I can't imagine not using a MIDI board at my weddings, because I have, I've got the big case for my 8000, my Denon 8000. And I have my music computer. I have my microphone, basically just kind of sits on the shelf there. And then I have my MIDI board, and over on the other side, or on the right side of me, I have one of those portable stands for a laptop. And then I have my ShowXpress computer right there. Typically, once I've started my wedding, I don't touch my computer again. Everything is done right on my MIDI controller. So when I go to a wedding, I will typically program, I'll program the cake. So spotting the cake. I will program the door for the entrance. I'll program the center of the dance floor. I'll program the dance floor left to right. And then I will program the head table. And that's about it. Oh, and plus a ceiling. So I like to do like just a very elegant, nice fade or a color in the ceiling wash. And then also I have a really cool texture that I do overlaying to kind of create some really cool ambiance up in the ceilings as well. So those are the couple things, you know, people are like, they come to a wedding like, my gosh, you know, how long does it take you to program this? I'm like, it takes me about 3 minutes, because it's just doing 5 different things. And I mean, that's the beauty about software is you have so many things that are preset. And with ShowXpress, like I said, you can layer things. So I can put my movement on, I can turn my movement on, I can push a button. I can push a button here for my prism. I can speed my prism up or slow it down, however I want to do it. I can do all that right on the MIDI once I have my positions programmed. I don't have to program anything but positions.
Jared?
Yeah.
No, Jared.
Oh.
This is your graphic guy talking. And you're going to blame me for what?
Nothing. Don't worry about it.
At least he's listening.
It was a comical moment. It's past now, but it's quite all right. It's quite all right. I'm now super seriously interested in you called it. I just want to make sure I have this correctly. The APC Mini.
Mm-hmm.
That's from Akai.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks so cool.
And it's cheap.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, John, if you could just pick me up maybe 2 just in case one of them breaks, that would be fantastic.
Sure, we can get right on that. Yeah.
Well, then pick me up a couple too. Everybody on the show tonight gets free MIDI boards.
We're going Oprah style tonight. You get a MIDI controller. You get a MIDI
Check under your seat.
Where's the keys to the new DJ vans?
There you go.
You sure the gum under your seat wasn't from us, okay? I just want to let you know.
Jeremy, on average, how long does it take to get super comfortable that you can take something like that out and know the ins and the outs of how that MIDI board is
comfortable on what? On timeline?
Well, not necessarily timeline, more the MIDI controller, because that's something that I think at least myself, I would implement that sooner than a timeline. I would rather implement that versus the timeline aspect initially, because I don't see the timeline coming as I don't know, and I could be wrong, but I from what I understood, the timeline is more of a hit it and then you can walk away, using it for more of a promotional aspect.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
I'll open up Mobile Beat. I was hoping to have Mobile Beat 2017 on here. I'm going to open up 2016, and I'll show you the live buttons from that show.
Okay.
Which Akai was that, Jeremy?
The Akai APC Mini. It's like $99 or something like that. All right. Can you see my ShowXpress?
Yep.
Okay. So one thing you won't see is, maybe you can see the child page. There's actually another page. So typically when I do a bigger event, I will typically have 2 screens. So I have my screen here, or my laptop, and then an extra screen. So basically everything that you, let me see, what is, I know I have some of these programmed. So here's kind of an idea on how many different fixture styles I had for that show. I had my atmospheric effects, Freedom sticks, and actually Freedom. Oh, yeah, shoot. This was, I was thinking this was 2017. This was 2016. But anyways, so I have back totems, and pretty sure I've got button triggers on some of these. I don't know which ones I have button triggers on. But anyways, what I can do, or what you do to kind of program your button triggers, and you're asking how long it takes, it doesn't take long at all. So basically, it's just once you get your MIDI board connected, what you have to do, let me back up. You have to go to File, Preferences, and then MIDI. And then you have to find your MIDI board.
Okay.
And then it'll give you a green check mark. Make sure that your MIDI board is plugged in before you open up the program. It's just like your ShowXpress box. Make sure it's plugged in before you open up the program.
Okay.
Okay. So once you've done that, you just hit apply. And then you go into your button trigger, and you click on MIDI in, MIDI out. And what you do is you hit this learn button. Once you've done that, okay, can you see me down in the corner, or can you see me still on your screen?
Yep.
Okay, once you've done that, then all you have to do is push the button once, and then what will happen is it'll say the channel will change and the data will change. It'll notify, it basically puts it into the program that it sees the button you pushed, programs it in there, and then when you hit clone MIDI in, then basically it'll react to the button. So when you push the button down, you need to change the, what is it? I'm sorry, the data does not change. The channel will change, and it'll probably change this as well. The data, or no, I'm sorry, let me back up. The data will change. Here is what you need to fix if you want to actually see the button they have activated. So when the button is on, you want it to be green. It's like button, or it's like number 6 or something like that. And you just have to get comfortable with. You have to play around. Every board is going to be different. Okay. This isn't RGB. These are RGB buttons. So you can basically mix any colors, where the APC Mini, I believe, is red and green. I don't think it has blue. Which really isn't that big of a deal, because what you're probably going to do is you're probably going to have green and red. So green, it's on, red, it's off. But you're going to change this to the color you want it when it's on, and this to the color you want it when it's off. Trust me, once you get going on it, it's really simple. And hit apply. Once you've hit apply, then it'll save that into the program. So anytime you connect any APC Mini to your rig, it will notify, or it'll recognize it. And all of that information is saved in ShowXpress. So it'll automatically work for you.
Okay. So it's more of a wash, rinse, repeat. Just keep doing that same system over and over again. Wonderful.
Yep, exactly.
I'm pretty positive if I tried to talk my wife into letting me learn something else that was going to take a lot of time, it would not end well. And you seem like, you have a good relationship with your wife. I was able to meet her, and she seemed very happy and very encouraging. So
that's because she works in the business now, and she understands how much work actually has to go into this.
Oh, okay, perfect. So there you go.
So then with the sliders, I talked about utilizing those. You can do that with any of these. You see how I have percentages, and I have steps, and I have all these different lines right here. Mm-hmm. Basically, you're just going to go button trigger. You're going to do the same exact thing. MIDI in, learn, and then you're just going to move the slider up and down, and then it'll automatically detect it, do the same thing, MIDI out. Now you don't have to change anything here, because it's not going to illuminate. It's not going to do anything for the notes itself. So
okay.
So yeah, that like I said, this what you see here is absolutely nothing compared to what we had in 2017 for the Mobile Beat show. I mean, it was like layer on top of layers on top of layers, and yeah, it just kind of went forever. These are the built-in programs, the speeds that I had for each program. So now I will show you, to kind of end out here. Let's see, EV Booth NAMM 2018. Okay, so I did have buttons, and this is an auto start. I don't know how many of you use this, or how many of you are familiar with this. Auto start means basically when you start the program, it will automatically activate that button. And what I use auto start for is I make sure that all my moving heads have already gone through its rotation, and they're pointing straight up when they start, or pointing straight down if they're up on the truss. Because the last thing you want to do is, when you go to, imagine when you're doing a grand entrance for the door, you don't want to click the door button and the light comes on, and all of a sudden your light spins around and now points at the door. What I'm doing is I'm doing a home button. So if I push door, all they're doing is this. They're not spinning 360 to get all the way around. If that doesn't make sense, just message me. I'll walk you through that a little bit more. But here's what I was talking about. I actually did try this. I tried to do these in live, but again, it was just the show is too complex. So this isn't even the final show, but this is pretty close to the final show. 118, here we go. So it's going to take a long time to load. Like I said, I've got 2 hours of show here. Actually, no, this one's not 2 hours. This is probably like an hour, maybe a little more, a little less.
Your email, actually.
What's that?
This is your email, actually.
This is, yeah.
Check that Verizon email because I want to find out exactly what kind of a deal they're offering on Friday night.
What?
Your email was showing up.
You're seeing my email right now?
There was a Bluehost thing that popped up.
Oh. I don't know. I'm sorry. So I took the audio out. So here was the audio file. And then the video, I didn't really care about anything that was going on with the video because basically they were going to match the video to what I did with the lighting design. Now, here is how I built this show ahead of time. I basically built the entire show in 3D. So you can see all of my washes, you can see all of my movers, you can see all of my pars.
They didn't pop up if they're up on your screen. We're still seeing the timeline.
Oh, hold on. Let me new share and share.
Ah, there we go.
Ooh.
Okay. So here's the 3D view. You can see here's all my movers. And again, this is what I talked about. They're in home position. So they're all facing down and they're all already turned. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And then I've got my freedoms. I've got my slim beams. I've got, these are the color band Pix M's. These little black dots up here are the hex slim par hex. And I'm going to go back to, let me see if I can share that whole desktop. There we go. Okay.
You can see them both now.
So what you're going to see, I'm going to start the show and I'm going to have to open up the, whoops. There we go. Oh, I got to turn on 3D. There we go. So basically, here's what I would see visually. Here's where it talks about the Evolve 50s. And again, John, you saw the show. You kind of saw how it all worked out. But I talked about every little thing that you see in this show has a purpose, whether it's shutting off or it's turning on. And let me see, it should get into, yeah. So there's the movements, and you can see what color I'm using for certain things. So 3D is pretty powerful as well. I really do like using 3D when I'm doing bigger events or bigger shows, especially that have the detail that I needed for something like this. But you can still, now you can see the timeline, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause that, and here is when I zoom all the way in. So here is basically with the beat, and you can see that as I scan across, there's a lot of that. You'll see, here's the fade outs, here's the, and actually I labeled these, you can change the labels on these. So this one's movements, this one's the light that's on the speaker. This is, I didn't change this one. This is the side logo. So basically I just made sure that the side logos were on the entire time. And then here you got slim beams. This is basically the hybrid, the program that I created with the cone effect. But as it gets further in, and again, this is actually, it's actually 10 timeline or 10 scenes, and I used all 10 for this show. But this is only 6 minutes in. When I zoom all the way out, this is what the show looks like. And this is for 51 minutes of the show. Like I said, the show was actually,
how long?
What's that?
How long was it in total?
In total, it was 2 hours.
Okay. Wow.
So now you can see why when I activated the button in ShowXpress, it took so long for it to process because it had to load all of these different scenes.
Sure.
So just by using the enter button, I can, here, actually, now I can show you. So when I hit the enter button, you're going to see it jump back right to that spot.
What about those yellow triangles? The red is an enter key. That, yeah, what is that for?
Yeah, so I actually reached out to the ShowXpress developers, and I'm like, what exactly is the purpose of those? Because in my mind, how these should be utilized, or what they are their timestamps. Okay.
Okay.
So to me, you should be able to program every single timestamp as like a time code. So for some reason, if our time code got off, then they could just click another MIDI note and it would start at that time code note.
I was getting ready to ask if that would be possible.
Right now, these do absolutely nothing.
Oh.
And so that's why I couldn't believe it. I'm like, well, what are they for then? Well, they don't really have a purpose. They are for basically what I said they should be for. But what I did is, because I'm like, oh yeah, this will be perfect. I'll add a MIDI note right here. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going into the menu. I'm trying to find in timeline, all right, where's the yellow dots? Where's the yellow dots? Nothing. So I gave up on them. But basically, the other thing I did too is I labeled everything. So this is where it was ELX. Then when I was programming ELX, I knew exactly where I could jump to, ELX 200. If I get further into the show, you'll be able to see like EKX, you'll see ETX. And that's basically those are my notes. So I know exactly where things are at and when things are starting. So I know when the song's winding down, which you'll see these X's, basically the lights are turning off. And then something else kicks in or something else turns on. This is the speaker lights. So as soon as I start talk about the ETX 10P and 15 SP, then basically the lights, I had two trios, and you can see that right here, trios. I had two trios that basically would spot every single speaker as it was being played. So people could follow along and they knew exactly which speaker was active at that time.
Does timeline auto repeat?
It does not. You can do it. I'm trying to think. I had to turn it off on this show because again, we were activating it with a MIDI note.
Okay.
So I didn't have it repeat, but I know it can do a repeat because I actually had a show that did repeat accidentally. It was, and I don't think anybody noticed, but I noticed it was actually at Mobile Beat 2015. No, it was 2016 at Mobile Beat. I did that. I programmed this timeline for before Taffer came out, and I played the show, and he comes out. He's like, "Wow, that was awesome," and it was. He started talking about lighting can really make you feel something, and then he kind of went into his story. I don't know if you were there, if anybody remembers that, but as he started to talk about that, I noticed that my show is starting over again. I'm like, oh crap. So I had to go open up timeline, turn it off, and we were fine. So, but yeah, for some reason it did auto repeat. I can't get it to auto repeat anymore. But yeah. Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions or anything else I can kind of explain for people? Robin, do you use ShowXpress? No? What do you use?
I have one of the Elation, just a little DMX, but I'm actually using the Shop Gig rig right now.
Yeah?
Yeah, I just bought one. It's nothing major like yours. I'm impressed, don't get me wrong. And I doubt if I go that big and do that much work, because that's a lot of work. And you say you could do one person, that's great.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're using a great unit because it does give you a lot of versatility in what the lighting can do, what it does, and it's a nice compact size for you too. So it's a good unit. I'm not putting that down by any means.
No, well, I just don't think I could handle doing all that.
Yeah,
and that would be a lot for me personally.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Well, I'll tell you, I enjoyed the part about the 3D visualizer. I use a different program, but it's been very helpful to me. I actually did an event that was in upstate New York, and I was not going to do a site inspection and take a 5-hour drive. So I asked for a picture of the ballroom. And once I had that, then Jimmy, the graphics guy, did a graphic for it. And then I was able to, you know, build a show from that. And then, like you said, once I had the very basics of what I wanted, literally went in there, and within minutes, I had a show, you know. And then I did busking. And that's how I did it, because there was 4 different DJs that I did the light show for, and I just busked.
Yeah.
And it was it's just, once you got the basics, like, I don't use the Chauvet, but I understood everything you were saying. It's so cool. It's so similar. I love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. Like when I would do Mobile Beat and we had like the show openings and things like that, that's when I needed specific lights to do specific things. So I would actually use Timeline for that. Now, when Janai's up there spinning, I don't know what Janai is going to do. I have to react to what he's doing. Yeah. And so that's why I'm in the back and I'm ready to just push buttons and overlay and you know, put color changes and do movements and things like that, depending on and kind of reading what he's going to do with the music. You know, we work well together. I know how he works. He knows how I work. So I know the direction that he's going with his music and when a build's going to happen. And then when all of a sudden it's just going to snap. And basically that's my job. And that's any lighting designer's job, is to find the power of the music and allow the lighting to connect with that and allow the lighting to create that, that same atmosphere.
Yeah. Whenever I DJ with Howie, I tell him when changes are coming up.
Yeah, we were side by side, and he said, "Get ready. There's a break coming." I said, "Okay."
Yeah, so sometimes I'd even, you know, I'd count it off for him.
Yeah, he did. It was fun. It was a great event.
I think some of the most powerful buttons that kind of get overlooked is a flash. So basically, all of your lights go on. I think a blackout is very effective. And then I think a random strobe and just a speed strobe. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, you know, we can't use strobes at weddings. You can use strobe at weddings. You might just have to double check to make sure, hey, is everyone cool? And once you use a strobe once and they're like, oh, no, we can't use that, then you're fine. I mean, just you do something else. I've never had anybody, knock on wood, I've never had anybody complain because I've used a strobe or I've used, you know, strobes on my walls with my Freedoms.
You can lower the rate on the strobe rate, right?
Well, yeah, but there's people can break into seizure no matter how fast or how slow a strobe is. There's not a specific hertz that happen that is going to make someone react to it. It could be something really slow. I've heard people going into seizures because they're at a stoplight and the yellow light is blinking to slow down. I mean, it's a crapshoot on what's going to react to it.
Well, Jeremy, we got to wrap up here. We are.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
We're our time here, so we need to.
So I do promise I will. I am actually redoing all of the ShowXpress videos. So basically, how to install, how to do everything that you saw in, you know, like the EV booth or, you know, what we did for the wedding show. We're going to go all the way from start all the way to finish. So basically, the very advanced stuff, we'll have that stuff available. It's just trying to find the time. John and I had this talk. It's trying to find the time to do it all. But I'm always an open book. You can always reach out to me. I'm always here to help answer questions. It doesn't have to be on ShowXpress. It can be on anything. And then obviously with the shop time videos, if you ever have a question, you say, hey, can you do a video on this, video on that? That's actually where a lot of the content for my videos come, is because people have questions. I just put out a whole bunch of Eve series. So the Fresnel, I talked about how to use the barn doors, how to use the zoom, all these different features, because some people just don't understand. They're like, I don't get what this light's supposed to do. So I did about 4 videos that just came out on the Shop Time channel that basically walk through all the different features and options and why you use certain things and why you don't use certain things. So send me any questions that you guys have. I would be happy to help you out. And I'm glad everyone is having a good success in lighting.
Thank you
so
very
much.
much.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.